Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Lindsay Teal and I'll be your host for today's webinar, which should last around 40 to 45 minutes. We're joined again this week by my colleague Richard Malloy. Richard is one of our water efficiency experts and works with organisations across Scotland to help them use water more efficiently and of course enjoy reduced water bills. Richard's going to share some of his experience with you today. During the session, if you would like to ask myself or Richard a question on anything covered, you can type your question into the box, which should be coming up on screen in just a second. I think we just had a bit of a technical difficulty there. I hope everyone can hear us now. I'll just recap again. If anyone would like to ask any questions throughout the webinar, you can enter them in the box there on screen. And of course, if you enjoy tweeting, you can also tweet your question to me using the hashtag #ResWebinar, which is on screen now. Okay, I'll pass you over to Richard and hopefully we won't have any more technical difficulties.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's webinar. This is the second of a series of 3 webinars which we're running looking in depth at water efficiency. Excuse me. The first of these looked at some of the quick and simple opportunities that you could look at in order to reduce water use within your organisation and save money. So these are aimed at really only requiring a minimal preparation. So this webinar builds on this by looking at some of the tools and techniques that you could use in order to identify opportunities that are specific to your organisation, in order to help you further embed water efficiency within your organisation and ultimately save more money. Over the next 45 minutes or so, I want to look at some of these tools and techniques, as well as some of the more advanced opportunities that could be considered within your organisation, and finally some of the support tools that Resource Efficient Scotland can offer to make the process as easy as possible. So I know that there's a good number of you that joined us for the first webinar, but for those that weren't there, I just wanted to quickly go through a couple of slides on why we're looking at water and why it should be considered an important resource within your organisation. In essence, water is a commercial resource, so you're paying for it coming into your organisation, you're then adding value to it by heating or treating it, for example with chemicals or by softening it, and then finally you're paying for it to leave your organisation. Therefore, you want to get as much as possible value out of it while it's on your site. In addition, significant amounts of energy are embedded within the water supply network. So if you consider how much energy it actually takes to pump or treat the water that you use on your site. As such, it's fair to assume that as energy costs continue to rise, water costs are likely to follow suit. If you can reduce your water, you're reducing a variable cost, and therefore you may be able to get an edge over your competitors. And if you don't do it, there's a good chance that they will. So you really just want to get in there first. As well as saving money, there's the added bonus of environmental kudos, which can help with positive PR and as a contribution to sustainable practices, which are more and more a requirement of work proposals. So just to put things into context a little bit for you, a dripping tap is often ignored within an organisation, but each small drip is around £20 per year, and a bigger leak can be something up to around £750 a year. If that 3mm stream there is hot water, then the cost of this leak to the business can be around £2,000 due to the significant amount of energy required to heat the water. Okay, so let's fast forward to the end of your programme. You've implemented all your water saving measures, you're feeling pretty happy with yourself. Your finance director knocks on your door and asks you about the water efficiency programme. How did it go? What savings did you make? What was the payback on the implemented improvements? In order to be able to answer this, you need to do a bit of work up front. Make sure you understand your starting point and prepare for a successful water efficiency programme. So as a first step, you should really take regular meter readings and record your water use. This will help you determine how much water you currently use. If you don't know how much water you're using in the first place, you'll not be able to determine the success of any improvements that you actually make. So Resource Efficient Scotland have developed a water tracking spreadsheet where you can actually just enter your meter readings into the spreadsheet and it will help you to determine usage. It also provides a graphical output and you can add things like key performance indicators to help you determine how your water use changes in relation to your business operations. For example, if you're a manufacturer, then you could look at litres per product, or if you're an office, then it might just be number of full-time equivalents on site. Consider what the main variable is within your organisation that actually affects your water use and track your water against that. So how often you actually read your meter will depend on the level of detail you require to carry out your water efficiency programme. So information about your meter should be provided on your water bill. However, it's also worth noting that not all sites will actually have a water meter. If a particular process or area uses a lot of water and offers the potential for large savings, then meter readings should be taken more frequently. This can be done for a trial period to help you identify the reasons for that high consumption. So initially you might decide to take meter readings daily for 7 days, then you might switch to weekly meter readings over the course of a month, and then once you're familiar with your consumption patterns, monthly meter readings may be sufficient for ongoing monitoring. Regular monitoring is essential, as soon as you identify unusual consumption, the sooner you can actually find the cause and correct it. For a step-by-step guide in reading your water meter, Resource Efficient Scotland's developed a short video available through the Resource Efficient Scotland website or by scanning the QR code that's on the slide at the moment. In addition, especially if you use a lot of hot water, you should look at sub-metering high water using processes. This will help identify your key water using areas and help you to focus your efforts where you will get the best return. Automated meter reading technology can simplify this process by sending readings directly to a computer or mobile device. So later on I'll show you a case study where an organisation installed some sub-meters and were actually able to identify £30,000 worth of savings per year. So I think before we carry on, I think Lindsay wants to do a quick poll of all the people we've got on the line, so I'll let her do that just now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on, we're interested to know whether or not you've constructed a water mass balance for your organisation. So that poll should have come on screen now, and the options are yes, no, not sure where to start, no, you don't know what a water mass balance is. So, yep, quite a few votes coming in now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just close that and share the results with you. So quite interestingly, and I suppose good for the webinar today, 63% of people don't know what a water mass balance is, so I think you're in the right place. So we'll move on to the next part of the slides.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Lindsay. So we're going to look at how you actually develop a water mass balance. So once you've got a bit of baseline in terms of water use within your organisation, you can start to look at where the opportunities for improvement might exist. So a water mass balance really just allows you to build up a picture of where and how water is used within your within your organisation. So a water mass balance really just works on the principle that however much water enters your organisation must exit somewhere. So this might be to wastewater, it might be through evaporation, you might be using water in your products, or there might be things like you might have leaks on site, or it might be leaving your organisation as effluent. So by taking the time to develop a water mass balance, your organisation will better understand where and how much water is used and where wastewaters are produced. This will help you identify areas where the greatest cost savings are possible. In addition, if you can't account for all the water within your organisation, it's possible that you might have a leak on site. And obviously identifying and fixing any leaks on your site should be a top priority, as it will lead to instant savings on your water bill. So this shows you an example of a water mass balance from a coffee shop or a restaurant. So you'll have the water entering your site, being used in the preparation, for example, in food and drink, as well as being used for things like flushing toilets and basins, and also to a degree cleaning activities as well. So as a result, you can determine that water will exit your site in products, evaporation, and as wastewater down the drain. So in terms of developing a water mass balance, you'll hopefully be able to quantify your water by interrogating your water bills and meter readings. That'll give you your water in. So you can use this information to determine how much water you're going to use throughout the entire year. Secondly, you should be able to also make a rough estimate as to how much water is leaving your organisation as wastewater. So you can do this again by interrogating your water bills. Some organisations may also have a wastewater meter, which you could then use to get an accurate representation, but most businesses won't. A water company generally will assume that 95% of the water that enters your premises will leave via the wastewater drain, so you could use this as a starting point. However, you might need more information on where and how much wastewater is being produced. In addition, you want to be able to identify your water using activities and how much water each uses. So in order to fill out that middle bit, you need to do a bit more digging. So we'll look at this in a second, but I think we're going to do another quick poll.
Yeah, so the next question we've got for everybody is just to ask how engaged you feel your staff are at your organisation in water efficiency. So that should be coming on screen now. And the options are everyone is on board, the majority are on board, only a select few are engaged, and no one really cares. Hopefully not too many of those, but... So yeah, so at the moment only a select few are engaged seems to be the kind of the favourite selection. I'll just share those results with you. Most people seem to have answered them now. So I'll just share those results. Yeah, and the answer that's coming out top really is only the select few are engaged. So again, these series of webinars should give you lots of tips to hopefully just get more of your organisation engaged in water efficiency.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll just give you some ideas on how you can actually engage your staff as well in terms of, how you use water and how you actually communicate that to your staff. Different staff will be interested in different parts of your processes and different areas. So it's just keeping that in mind, I suppose.
We've also got useful resources which I'll share after the webinar with posters and stickers and things which can help engage staff.
Excellent. Thanks, Lindsay. So in order to sort of fill out that middle bit, you can carry out something as simple as a site walk around. It really is amazing how much information you can pick up by looking around your organisation with a fresh pair of eyes. So you do want to do this in some sort of structured way in order to get the most out of it. So firstly, what do you actually need before you start? Well, our site walk around checklist and a pen, a camera which is useful to capture points of note to refer to later, and a site layout plan which is just useful to help you plan your walk around and ensure that you visited all the areas that you need to, as well as allowing you to note areas of interest. So the checklist that we've got provides you with some things to look out for as you walk around your site. So you'll want to check things like fixtures and fittings and make sure they're operating correctly, as well as ensuring any water efficiency devices that have already been fitted are operating correctly. The checklist can be downloaded from the Resource Efficient Scotland website, and I've included the link at the bottom of the slide here as well for you. In addition, make sure you consult with your health and safety manager to determine what personal protective equipment, or PPE, you will need, especially if you're accessing tanks and plant areas and things like that, for example. So prior to the site walk around, ensure that any colleagues that you need to speak to will be available. It's unlikely that you'll understand everything that you need to know about your site and your processes, so give careful consideration to who you would like to engage with as part of your site walk around. Use your site layout plan to make notes on potential improvements or areas of particular interest. So these might be high water using areas, for example. And use the note pages of your checklist to further note areas of action required or any follow-up questions for staff who might be unavailable. So what are you actually looking for and what do you need to know? Well, any water using activities, including toilets and canteens. You also want to know any areas of high water use, which you can generally do through observation. However, you'll also want to measure flow rates to work out how water using fixtures and equipment are performing. You can do this with the bucket and stopwatch approach. Effectively all this is, all you have to do really is time how long it takes to fill a container of known volume. For example, how long does it take your tap to fill up a 1 litre bottle? You can then use this information along with usage assumptions to determine how much that piece of equipment uses per year. For example, you might have 20 staff on site. You can assume that they use the toilet facilities twice a day and they might use the tap for 10 seconds. So if you've got that flow rate, you can add all them together and work out roughly across the course of a year how much that tap will use. You can use the same approach to build up a picture of most of the water using activities. However, if you can't, you can actually just ask colleagues to estimate usage. As I said earlier on, you're not going to have an understanding of exactly what goes on within your processes and within your site. So that's why it's important to identify what identify which colleagues you need to speak to as part of your site walk around. Alternatively, you can collect equipment serial numbers or model numbers, and you can use the internet just to find out how much water the manufacturer states that they should be using. Also take notes of any areas of evaporation, make notes of any dripping taps or faults, ensure ball cocks and overflows are operating correctly, and take note of areas of high water use and improvement opportunities. So using those different techniques, you should sort of have a rough understanding of how much certain activities within your organisation use. However, if you do have any gaps, I've provided a couple of slides here, complete with assumptions that allow you to fill the gaps. For example, this one gives you like assumed tap operating times and things to consider when you're calculating your occupancy. This second one as well, you can use these figures to estimate roughly how much water you should be using at your site, and it will give you an indication of whether or not you have a leak or particularly high water use. There are also some typical uses in terms of water using equipment as well. Okay, I think we're going to take some questions. I don't know how many we've got at the moment.
Yeah, we've got a couple that have come in. One of the first ones is someone's just asking if we'll share these slides after the webinar, and we absolutely will. I'll email them to everyone who's attended the webinar, and also we're recording the webinar and we'll be able to share that as well if you want to sit down and watch it through again, and that'll be made available to you in the next couple of days. Another question is, we have some bespoke machinery that uses a lot of water, but most of the pipe work is hidden, so they're not really sure how to measure how much water is being used. Richard?
Okay, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier on about engaging staff. There'll be operators probably using that machinery, I would have thought, and just speaking to them in terms of, you know, is it turned off at night? Do they know roughly how long it's operating for? And you can kind of work up a picture just based on their observations of the process or piece of machinery. Alternatively, if you need a bit more accurate information, then you could actually look to fit a submeter or use like an ultrasonic flow meter as well, which will allow you to actually measure what the instantaneous flow is through any pipe work. I know most of it's hidden, but usually there'll be at least an element that you can attach it to.
Fantastic. The next question we've got is that someone's completed a water mass balance, but they've got gaps in their information and they're just wondering how they can complete it. I suppose that builds on your previous slide.
Yeah, again, it's just making sure you talk to colleagues. As I mentioned, looking at manufacturer models and serial numbers, you can use that. I mean, it doesn't have to be absolutely bang on. You just need to come up with assumptions that can at least estimate how much you're going to be using.
And we've probably got time for one more, and someone's just asking, is it worth getting a water consultant to do a water mass balance?
Well, Resource Efficient Scotland does offer on-site support from a water efficiency point of view, so if you are interested in that, I can see who's asked the question. But if you are interested in that, then it's something that we can share the email address and telephone number at the end as well, and just get in contact with us.
Great. That's all the time we've got questions for just now. So we'll stop at the end again and ask any more questions that have come through. So make sure you post your questions before that. So move on.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so in the slides on. Okay, so in the first webinar, we looked at some of the domestic opportunities, so those that exist in the majority of organisations. So what are the additional opportunities that you should consider if you've done all this? So what are some of the advanced opportunities? So not all of these are going to be appropriate for every single organisation on the call, but it will be relevant for some, and hopefully the rest of you will be able to draw some sort of inspiration from it. I'm also going to go through a couple of quick case studies which will highlight what a little bit of investigation into water use can achieve. Okay, so if we have a look at cleaning first of all, what are the opportunities here? Well, first of all, I think we've got another poll that Lindsay was looking to run. So
yeah, just the final poll for today, and it's just we're interested to know how many of you out there have cleaning staff which receive water efficiency training as part of their induction. So that should be on screen now, and it's simply yes, no, or don't know. So quite high numbers of no at the moment. So that's an opportunity there which could help to exploit some more water saving opportunities. I'll close that and share the results with you just now. It's relatively close. That should be on screen now.
I'm surprised how few have got any. I would have thought there would be a couple of people on the line that might have, might know cleaning staff with some sort of induction training. Because water use is such a key part of any cleaning activities, it's maybe something that you could consider looking at. And I know, well, Resource Efficient Scotland have got a number of resources actually that you can use to help you with that. Things like toolbox talks, and also the Resource Efficiency at Work induction pack.
Yep, we actually went into a little bit more detail on that on the previous webinar, so I'll share the links again at the end and also include the link to the previous webinar, which there's a recording online now, so that might be useful for anybody that's looking for what resources we have available for training. Okay, so we'll move on.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on. So the first thing to do is to have a look at your cleaning staff and how they actually perform their role. But it can be a particularly high water using activity, so it really is an area that there should be some degree of focus on. So first of all, look at where you can remove the need for water. For example, you can use things like brushes and squeegees where possible before any water is even used. Also, when water is required, ensure that trigger activated spray guns are used along with the correct attachment setting. This will ensure that any water used for cleaning is used efficiently and the hoses aren't left on as well. As well as saving money from a water efficiency point of view, if you're a manufacturing facility, for example within the food and drink industry, then you can make additional savings on your trade effluent by removing organic matter from your effluent stream. Even if you work in an office or a hotel, for example, there are often savings associated with better training and engagement of cleaning staff and understanding exactly what it is, what their cleaning processes are. You could also consider things like cleaning in place technologies. These, for example, can be used to automate the cleaning of pipework, vessels, and in situ equipment. Water savings are made through the automation of cleaning processes and allow for more efficient cleaning by removing the human element. If you already have CIP control systems in place, there are fewer opportunities for improving their efficiency. You can consider recycling final rinse water and chemicals as the first rinse for the next piece of equipment, or ensure that the wash processes are optimized using control systems, or simply just by choosing more water efficient spray nozzles and making sure that they're actually appropriate for the vessels and the types of cleaning that you're looking to do. Additional opportunities exist around the reuse of water. So if you consider what I was saying earlier on about the amount of value that goes into water when it's on your site and making the most of this value, then this is where water reuse and recycling comes in. As such, consider where you could reuse water elsewhere on your site, either with little or no treatment ideally. Particularly if this water is hot, as the figures are more likely to stack up. And as a minimum, you should consider if you can use heat exchangers to capture the heat and use it elsewhere in your process or your site. This can be particularly relevant for open loop cooling systems, whereby water is used for cooling once and then sent to drain. So by moving to a closed loop cooling system, you can employ heat exchangers or replace water with an alternative coolant, and you can ensure that savings are quite significant. If you have any processes that involve cleaning or rinsing products, then you could look at counter-current rinsing, where work is processed one way and the water goes the other. So that's what that diagram there on the screen is. So the product moves further down the line, it comes into contact with cleaner and cleaner water, and with the water going the other way, which becomes dirtier and dirtier as things go on. So the bottom line here really is, follow the money. So where is the water most precious to you, and how can you actually recover more of its value? Okay, so I just wanted to give a quick example of a company that we work with in Coatbridge, just outside Glasgow. So Natural Fruit and Beverage Company produce fruit purees and bottled drinks. They weren't sure where to start and wanted to find out if they could identify any water savings. So basically what they did is they put a sub-meter in to help them construct a water mass balance. And in doing so, they were able to identify what their top 3 water using activities were. And these were their product cooling baths, other tenants on site, and their product sterilising tunnels. So there wasn't a lot that they could do with their tenants right there and then, and they wanted to make sure that they could get their own house in order first. As such, they looked in more detail at their cooling baths and product sterilising tunnels, and in doing so were able to save £30,000 per year. The activities were both very straightforward, and all they required really was a fresh pair of eyes to come in and look at the process from a different point of view and in more detail. So, product sterilising tunnels used to pasteurise the product by heating it with water and steam. So all they did was they installed new pipework to capture and reuse that water that you can see on the right hand side, and basically recycling it back into the sterilising tunnels. And they were able to save 4,100 metres cubed, or £3,000 a year. In addition, another £15,000 was saved through reduced gas consumption. For the cooling baths, the fruit purees were in pouches, and these were submerged within the bath with cold water to quickly reduce their temperature. So at the time, the contents of these cooling baths were being replaced every 30 minutes, using significant amounts of water and also wasting quite a lot of heat as well. So all they did was, you can see that there's spray bars on the left-hand side picture there, and they submerged those spray bars, and that allowed the water to be better mixed, and it allowed for more consistent temperature across the cooling baths. And that just meant that they didn't have to replace the water as often with cold water in order to maintain an acceptable temperature. So that saved them 16,600 metres cubed a year, or £12,000. So as you can see, two very simple activities. All it took was to actually understand their processes a bit better, and they were able to save £30,000 in water savings and energy savings. Just quickly, another interesting case study. A company that we worked with a bit more recently, Honeywell Manufacturing. They manufacture heating controls, LED lighting, and other electronics. So they're based out in Motherwell. For those from the west of the country, you probably pass them on the M8 every so often. The problem they've got is they need to be able to compete with their other sites in China, India, and across Europe. And as such, there's a continual drive to reduce costs and identify savings. So they had a cooling tower. It was always breaking down. It used a lot of water and a lot of energy. They knew they needed to replace it, and instead of replacing it with a like-for-like piece of equipment, they invested a bit more in a much more efficient dry air blast cooler. Not only did they save 90,000 metres cubed per year, but also significantly reduced their downtime and energy consumption significantly. Okay, so I want to have a quick look at effluent management. So when a business is charged for effluent, this can often make up a significant proportion of their water bills. I've already talked about using behaviour change and dry cleaning techniques to reduce organic matter that enters the drain, which will help reduce the strength of the effluent and save you money. The Mogden formula is a mean by which the cost of effluent is calculated. In effect, it's based on the amount of time and energy it would take to break down the effluent and treat it to an appropriate quality for it to be released back into a watercourse. RAP's produced a Mogden formula tool, which you can use to actually help you understand a bit more about how your organisation is charged for your effluent. And by understanding this, you can start to target areas where improvements can be made by identifying the variables that are adding to your costs, and then working back from there to determine what the origins of this are. For example, you might realise that your cleaning chemicals may be high in phosphorus, or you might find a particular product leads to high oxygen demand, and by investigating alternative chemicals or reducing the amount of product that enters your effluent streams, you can often improve the effluent quality and ultimately save you money. If for some reason you can't reduce the chemicals or substitute the chemicals or products that you use, you can investigate wastewater treatment technologies that could remove these harmful chemicals prior to entering public sewers. You'll need to develop a business case to determine whether this would be economic by considering how much you would save on your effluent costs and how much it's actually going to cost to implement. So in the last of the series of these webinars, we will be looking in more detail about how you actually do this and what you actually need to consider. So as well as looking at opportunities to reduce your water use, if you don't think this is possible or you've exhausted all avenues, you could look at things like alternative supplies. So by providing alternative source of water, grey water recovery and reuse equipment can help reduce demand for water from the main supply, saving on your water costs. In addition, it reduces the amount of water discharged into the sewage system. Greywater harvesting and reuse equipment is purpose-designed and contains one or more treatment processes with associated storage, pumping and control systems that accept and treat greywater from bath showers, wash basins or laundries. After appropriate treatment, greywater may be used for purposes that don't require water to be of drinking water quality, for things like toilet flushing, garden watering or even laundry use. When considering the use of greywater, you'll need to consider your treatment requirements and that the potential demand is high enough. Typically, greywater can't really be stored for long periods of time as it can result in microbial growth, particularly warm weather. As such, you should always consider what the demand is for greywater before determining how much could be supplied by a system. So, greywater recovery and reuse equipment is available from the water technology list, which actually can help improve the economic case for looking at alternative supplies. And what we'll do as part of the third webinar, we'll go into the water technology list in much more detail. Rainwater harvesting as well also provides an alternative source of water by reducing demand for main supply and saving on water costs. In addition, if all rainwater is collected from your site, it can reduce your water bill by removing the need for roads and drainage charges, which you'll find on your water bill. Rainwater harvesting systems can be used to capture rainwater from roofs or hard standing areas. It can then be treated using appropriate technology, allowing it to be used for purposes that, again, don't require high quality water. For example, your toilet flushing, garden watering, or laundry use. Rainwater can be captured using existing guttering and stored in tanks. Filtration technologies can be as simple as debris filtration, for example, removing leaves and twigs and things like that, right through to the other end of the scale, things like ultraviolet and activated carbon systems. The level of treatment required will be dependent on what you actually need the end use to be, and costs tend to rise in line with the required quality. Again, these products may be available through the Water Technology List, and in addition, the UK Rainwater Harvesting Association provides technical guidance and a list of suppliers and installers of rainwater harvesting equipment. And I've actually included their web address as well on the screen, so if you want to check that out at a later date. Okay, so hopefully Webinar 1 provided you with some good ideas on where you could improve your water efficiency by considering how much you use from a domestic point of view. And this webinar looked to build on this in a much more structured way by considering the tools to identify bespoke opportunities for your business, as well as providing you with an idea of where these opportunities may exist. In order to take forward some of these opportunities in a structured way, you should develop an action plan. So, Resource Efficient Scotland has created a template which you can use to help with this. This template includes things like responsibilities, targets and projected costs and savings. This should be communicated and agreed with senior management, including what resources you're going to need, what targets you're going to adhere to, and what the timescale of the different projects and tasks are going to be. And again, at the bottom of the slide there, I've included the link to the Water Efficiency Implementation Plan or Action Plan, and you can have a look at that after the webinar. As your program develops as well, you should look to communicate your progress towards your objectives and targets with senior management and key staff. So this will just basically help keep them engaged and help ensure momentum. You should continue to raise awareness of the program by communicating the reasons for change, as well as giving staff a clear call to action. Different staff members are going to respond in different ways to different messages, so again, you should consider this as part of your action plan. Okay, so just to kind of give you a quick overview of some of of who Resource Efficient Scotland are and some of the resources and tools and techniques that can be used in order to support your water efficiency campaign. So Resource Efficient Scotland provides a range of support options, all of them free, that can help you progress your water efficiency campaign. We also have a pot of money available in the form of the SME loan, which can be used to buy these devices and to get them installed at your premises as well. In addition, we've got a number of online tools that you can use to help identify additional savings. If you fancy seeing how your organisation is currently performing, you can answer a short series of questions, and the Savings Finder will provide you with a bespoke report highlighting where improvements and savings can be made for waste, water and energy, and it will also provide you with a step-by-step action plan to help you save money. We also identified there was a bit of a hunger out there for people to learn a bit more about resource efficiency, what tools and techniques can be employed. As such, we developed the Champions training course, which gives you a quick, sort of structured access to knowledge, tried and tested techniques, and some free tools and templates that will hopefully help you develop your capabilities. So all you have to do really is go online, set up a free training account, and that gives you access to a number of 15-minute modules, and they're really designed to sort of fit around lunch breaks or whatever. There are tried and tested tools and templates which you can download as part of it, and it really just gives you the opportunity to build your skills and knowledge, and you also get a course completion certificate as well. Resource Efficient Scotland has developed a pledge as well to encourage businesses to take a series of actions to help use energy, water and raw materials more efficiently. So this is a great opportunity from a corporate social responsibility point of view to show your customers and suppliers that you're really serious about becoming a more sustainable and ethical business. So all we ask is that you commit to between 3 and 6 actions, which will then be approved by Resource Efficient Scotland, and then you've got 12 months to successfully achieve the pledge. It's open to all businesses in Scotland that want to take action to demonstrate their commitment, and I'd urge you to join the growing number of businesses from across Scotland who are already involved in the pledge. Okay, what we'll do is we'll take a few more questions, see what's come in.
Absolutely, we've got quite a few questions come in. I think you may have already answered this one, and perhaps if someone's looking for more advice, we could take it offline, but they're asking really if they start to recycle more of their water, that surely the strength of their effluent will increase, and they're just wondering how they work out the effect that will have on their effluent discharge costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we did sort of briefly cover it. It's all related to the Mogden formula, and that's how you're charged for your effluent. And depending on what industry you're in, you might also have standard strengths which are determined by the water companies. But really, yes, you're right. If you do reduce the amount of water, the knock-on effect of that is that the effluent strength could increase. So it's important to make sure that you look at what's contributing to your effluent and actually take steps to reduce those elements while you're actually implementing a water efficiency program.
Okay. Next question is, somebody thinks they could benefit from some water-saving equipment, but they're not really sure, how to know what the best option to buy is.
Okay. I mean, it's something that we're going to look at as part of the third webinar, so that's going to be sort of looking in more detail about, once you've identified your opportunities, what next? How do you actually procure equipment? How do you look at different proposals and carry out due diligence? So I would say for water efficiency specifically, you probably want to start with the water technology list, which I briefly mentioned. As I say, we'll go into more detail in the next webinar. But that's got loads and loads of different types of equipment and water saving devices, and there's the added benefit as well that you can offset it against your tax, so you can get tax savings. It's a bit of a tax incentive from the government.
Great, so that person should definitely sign up for the next webinar.
Yeah.
Next question is, how does somebody know if their water meter is the right size for their company?
The size of your water meter, it'll tell you on your bill, it will say it's, it can go from 15 millimetre right up to about 250, 300 mil, I think it is. It's determined by your peak consumption, so what your peak demand is. The best way to find out if you're on the right water meter, I know Business Stream do have like a meter reassessment tool on their website, so you can put in a number of different the number of different variables about your organisation, answer a few questions, and that'll determine whether or not you're on the right size of meter or not. That's probably the best place to start. Or if you're not with Business Stream, then speak to your water supplier.
Okay, great, thanks Richard. Another one is, are big splash audits still available?
They're not called big splash audits anymore, but We do offer on-site water efficiency audits, similar to Big Splash audits as they used to be called. So again, if you're interested, just get in contact with us and we can have a chat about it.
So that person can call the helpline.
Yeah.
Benchmarks for building types, specifically local authority, somebody's asking about, such as schools, libraries, swimming pools, and we're just wondering whether or not we have benchmarks available, and perhaps if that's a detailed question, we can take it offline. But
yeah, I mean, if it is specifically public sector, there's greening government targets, which a lot of the public sector are signed up to, and that will give you an idea of how you should be performing from a typical good practice and best practice point of view. So best place to probably just go into Google and Google greening government targets or greening government commitment.
Okay, great. And I think that's pretty much all the time we've got for questions, and so that pretty much concludes today's webinar. I'd just like to thank Richard for his time. Lots of fantastic ideas again, and thank you to everybody for joining and taking part in today's session. Lots of great questions. I'll share the slides and the webinar recording with you in the next few days, and as we've already mentioned, we've got lots more training workshops and webinars coming up, so take a look at our website and sign up for the ones that you think would help you the most, and we hope to see you there and hope you can join us. Thanks again for joining today, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks very much.